cauliflower rice, broccoli tots, zucchini noodles. These are all examples of the links that we will go through to convince ourselves that what we're doing is normal and healthy and exactly what we want. And you might be thinking, but I like cauliflower rice and zucchini noodles. And of course you do now. But my question is, how long did it take before you started to prefer these cauliflower and zucchini replacements over the real thing? Are you still wishing that you could quote unquote have the real thing? What did you have to do or tell yourself to accept this fake version? And what if I told you this ability to accept veggies as a substitution for carbs is similar to the same part of us that allows toxicity in our relationship and ignores what we truly want and what we truly need? Hang with me for just a few minutes, and we're going to get into 10 signs of a toxic relationship, as well as how we got there and how to break the cycle. Hey y'all, Maggie Dickens here. Welcome to All.The.Feels. I'm so glad you're here. You've been shattering those glass ceilings and checking off the to-dos of adulting. And now it's time for you to shed those pressures and expectations, to begin leaning into this crazy, beautiful life, and time to start getting real with what drives you. So let's begin creating the life that you crave, one feeling at a time. Narcissist and codependency. These were words that when I first started in my work weren't often used. And now they are thrown around in everyday conversations, sometimes used appropriately and sometimes not. This list of 10 toxic signs in relationships is to help us better understand what patterns we get ourselves into, why, and then what next? How do we break these patterns? Okay, jumping right in. I've got my list here on my phone. So we're going to go through quickly so that we can get into the why and the what's next. One, lack of support. And this lack of support can look like a variety of things, including whether or not a partner is open to listening to your hopes, dreams, goals, whether or not they put you down for wanting to up level or to do something different, whether or not they make excuses to come to things that you find to be important. Two, poor and unhealthy communications. So we know that communication is the number one foundation to healthy relationships, right? Well, when our communication is full of lies, manipulation, gaslighting, when it's lacking vulnerability, when there is fear to share, when there is this hesitancy to open up, we know that communication has moved into a toxic space. Three, jealousy and envy too. Jealousy is something that my younger self thought was evidence of my worth. And that kind of gives you a little bit of foreshadowing into how we get into these patterns. So stay tuned for that. I liked feeling wanted. And when someone would get jealous, it showed me what I thought to be love, when really I was being treated as property. And that's not okay. What ended up happening as well is envy, envious of what I thought my friends were having in their relationships. Oh man, that couple has everything. I wish my relationship looked like that. I wish I could have a relationship like that. And this, and then. Four, controlling behaviors. Now, jealousy is a great example of controlling behaviors, and it can be that obvious. Don't talk to so and so. Don't go to this event. It can also be a little bit more subtle. I don't know about you, but from an early age, I knew how to read a room. I knew how to feel the vibe out. I know if someone was upset or if someone needed a little bit of extra attention or some space. And this ability allows us to know what is allowed in a relationship, right? Allowed, quote unquote. And so we start doing what the other person wants us to do to avoid hurting them, to have their anger, to feel their disappointment. And controlling behaviors are also in a financial sense. Five, resentment and hope for change. Resentment is something, oof, it naturally comes with all of these other aspects of a toxic relationship. We begin to resent this person for their behaviors and not changing and not ever responding the way that we want them to. We begin to resent ourselves for quote unquote allowing this to continue. And yet, with love, this idea that we are so in love, we hope that things will go back to the way that they were. We hope that this is a phase, that this is a hard time that we just need to get through. And so we keep hoping, and resentment keeps building. Six, dishonesty. I'm not simply saying lying. Well, of course, that's dishonest. I'm also meaning white lies and lies of omission and that lack of vulnerability, that lack of transparency. I've been using the term partner, but it's really where this partner stops being with us and playing their own game, living their own life, not being clear about their intentions and what they need and what they want. Seven, patterns of disrespect and walking on eggshells. So remember that spidey sense I was talking about a little while ago about being able to feel out a room, feel how someone else is feeling, even if they're not telling us? Well, that helps us navigate those eggshells really, really well. And we can dance around an eggshell filled room gracefully. But it also means that this preoccupation with not rocking the boat, cracking the eggshell, leaves us vulnerable to someone else's disrespect, someone who is not a team player, someone else who is only looking out for themselves, someone who is putting us down, who is taking advantage of us, taking us for granted. Eight, ignoring our needs and having poor self care. Now, think about navigating a room full of eggshells. We're so preoccupied with what this other person needs, wants, and demands of us that we're not paying attention to what we need. Sometimes we've even forgotten or never knew exactly what we value, what will be fulfilling for us. And so we keep putting this other person first. Sometimes it's from this point of view of, I love you so much, I'm going to put you on this pedestal. And sometimes it's from this point of view of, you're going through a stressful time. And so I'm going to support you emotionally, sometimes financially, physically, support you in that hope for change. That when we get over this hump, this difficult time, that you will then be that partner I need you to be. 9, isolation from friends and family. This one is a mutual experience that our partner and that we own. Our partner can put our friends and family down, can tell us that they don't like when we hang out with that one friend because they're a bad influence. They put thoughts in our heads, something like that. But we also start to isolate ourselves because we don't want to admit how we're really feeling in the relationship. We don't want to hear our friends and family talk negatively about our partner. We also don't want to hear from our partner that they miss us and that they want us home. Instead, we stay home. We do those things that we have been conditioned to believe that we have to do in order to be that good, acceptable, lovable partner. And 10, our diminished self-worth. At the end of the day, after being lied to, gaslit, manipulated, controlled, after we have put ourselves second, third, and fourth, after we have ignored our needs and not taking care of ourselves, that is crushing to our self-worth. Whatever amount of self-worth we had going into this relationship gets destroyed. We've started living inside the lie that we are unlovable, that we are not as important, And that this relationship, with all of its flaws, are flawed because of us, and that our partner is the best that we would ever be able to have. And so we stay. We stay because of fear. We stay because of a few things I'm going to point out in just a moment. We keep staying, and our self worth keeps dropping. Okay. So I promised I would get into the how do these patterns begin. And I do believe understanding how these patterns began helps us in breaking the patterns altogether. And the first thing is going to some neuroscience. You guys know how I like to geek out about neuroscience. Is understanding that humans, we are creatures of habit and we are creatures of comfort. And so we seek out something called homeostasis or balance. And in that search for balance, we will sometimes accept things that are uncomfortable, that are unhealthy, because they are predictable, because they are familiar. What this means is if we grow up having core beliefs about ourselves that we are unlovable, not valuable, core beliefs that criticize our wants, that create self doubt, these are things that are familiar to us. And so when someone agrees with those core beliefs, whether outwardly and obviously or more covertly, we're able to accept that our core beliefs are accurate and we're validated in those beliefs instead of rejecting them, because the rejection is the unfamiliar. It's the difficult part. It's the work. And the work is difficult because for many of us, these core beliefs are hidden. They're hidden below this mask of independent woman and this feigned confidence. It's hidden below this, I can do everything on my own, because the core belief says, I have to do it on my own. I will always be alone. And so we keep pushing ourselves forward, even though inside we're hurting. We keep telling ourselves and the world that I'm okay, I'm fine. And hey, I'm a woman who's got my shit together. And so what we're doing is we are desperately grasping for control. We are putting in so much effort to pretend that we're okay. We don't see the toxic and shining armor around the corner. Now, the shining armor is able to use our core beliefs in a way that not only helps us feel loved, but breaks us down at the same time. And it's an art that many of us aren't able to understand. And you don't need to right now. That's my job. What I'm here to let you know is that your power is in regaining your understanding and your sense of self. Because this shiny armor who has come in and love bombed and who has made everything seem wonderful in the beginning, and then somewhere along the way started controlling, manipulating, gaslighting, started isolating you, disrespecting you. Somewhere along the way, this toxicity just seeped into the relationship. And so we shrink ourselves, we mold ourselves into the person that we think we are supposed to be, need to be, in order to be that lovable, likable, acceptable, good enough partner. But to them, it's never enough. We're never enough for them. They don't want us to be. They need us to be small. And you were never meant to shrink who you are and what you bring to the table. So now it's time for you to break that cycle and to regain your value and your worth and create and live that life that you have always wanted to live, and to do so confidently, shaking off all of that self-doubt. And what I've found to be most helpful in doing all of those things are just Well, I was about to say simple. There, it's work. Three things. And you've heard me talk about them before in my Confident Living series. And so I'll link that below so you can get a more in depth idea. But the first is examining and intentionally prioritizing what you value in your life, what is important to you, what you want to shape your life around. Two, identify and begin to shift and pivot those core belief systems, those core belief thoughts into ones that are no longer hurtful and are now much more helpful and uplifting and empowering. And three, purposefully outlining what it is that you want in your life. What ideas, what thoughts, what kinds of people, what kinds of experiences do you crave? Are you searching for? Have you always wanted? Now, this is what I call your yes life. What do you want to fill in your life where you can say, yes, that is exactly what I need, want, desire, crave? So, inside the Transcend Mentorship community, we use a variety of different techniques to re examine values, to change our core beliefs, to create a yes life. My favorite is the use of hypnosis and the connection within the community itself. And hypnosis helps us to change our neural pathways in our brain to help those core beliefs stick, those new core beliefs stick as sticky as the original ones did. And the community helps us feel that connection, letting us know that we're not alone, letting us know that we are supported and that we are worth this time, this investment that we're putting in. And that is so important because toxic relationships are foundationally about ripping away that connection to the world and leaving us feeling isolated, without support, and really without a sense of direction, without this person's assistance. And as you are learning to break those patterns, and as you are learning to live that life that you crave, you're able to enter the world more confidently. You are able to ditch those old thinking patterns that are outdated, that don't even belong to you, and instead say yes to the things that are aligned with your values and honor the beliefs that keep you feeling comforted, valuable, and loved. Let me know if you have any questions about this list of toxic signs in a relationship, how we got into them, and what we can do in order to break those patterns. And if you'd like me to dive deeper into any topic, just drop that in the comments below. I'm really here to help empower you to live that life that you've been craving.